Now, it would help if I actually put my lights on, wouldn't it? Hello, everyone. Hey, we are lit up. Okay, finally figured out how to be able to listen to the music in the background. So I can actually see what the hell we're listening to. So I can like vibe with you. Alright, let's have a look at what copper has done. I'm not sure about crude oil. It's all a bit rangy. Touched the 100 level. I'm kind of developing an idea of maybe running a short call from 100 at some point. But I do need to have a day where we're fairly close to that level. So not sure whether we're going to get that today. But that's definitely an option. An option for an option. So we're probably going to focus on copper because it's also copper settlement right now. Well, in about 28 minutes. So let me just see if I can do one more thing here. There was a way to try and stream vertically as well, but I'm not seeing that. It's like, am I blind? What is going on? How do we do that? I do not know. I do not know. Raphael is here, says good afternoon. Hope everyone had a good trading day. It was decent. Yeah, it's pretty decent. We'll see whether we can snatch another trade. I'm pretty tired though, so I'm gonna be still sticking to top step combine because I got up only after like 3 hours of sleep, so my brain is just like completely scrambled. So scrambled D trading. Did I miss anything here? No. Alright, sorry, I'm just reading stuff. Alright, so we have Sani noticing my lovely hat. So no, we're not trading cattle yet. I'm wearing this as a silly hat to denote that I hold my trades until the cows come home. So I figured I would get a cow in my head. Alright, let's do some analysis. Never mind the technical nonsense on YouTube. One level of interest is obviously this 550 level. I mentioned that one as a relevant level yesterday. But then I also said, well, if we lose that, 530 is basically the next thing that we have on the cards. Lo and behold, it went all the way down there and then bounced. So that was something that even I didn't expect. I was in on the portion of this one. Just a portion of it, not entirety of that. There's a little momentum trade, but I am looking at 550 reversal, right? So there's a decent chance that we carry on lower. Alright, so the music is doing my head in, so I have to take it out. I thought I could do it, I cannot. It is jarring my brain. Alright, so yeah, March is a bit weird for me because of the whole daylight savings thing. Even running these streams, I know it's 1 p.m. Eastern, but it's actually 5 p.m. my time. That's usually New York lunchtime, and that stays like that for like 3 weeks until the UK changes the clocks back as well. So it's weird, right? It messes with data, it messes with everything. I'm kind of taking it slow, and in my own account I've only been trading very few trades here and there, mainly sticking to risk-free combines, demos, trying to just get some accounts there, wait in the wings until April begins. But yeah, so here's a little combine I've been working on recently. So most of this came from some crude oil trading pre-market this morning, a couple of RBOB trades. Did I do a silver trade? I don't think I did a silver trade. I don't think it looked quite right. And then I tried a long copper. That one smacked me in the face, not by much, but enough for me to go, okay, well that didn't work. What's gold doing? Gold started reversing massively, so I figured I'm just gonna jump in. If it was like a funded account, I wouldn't have jumped in, but I could see that they're just plowing in, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just going. So I decided to grab a chunk of it. I think when I finished the stream, I was up. It's been a bit of an up and down day, so I was up about 2 grand. Then I lost the copper trade, so that got me down to 1.5. Then I recovered some of that, so I went back to 2k. It's been like up and down, up and down. And then, did I do anything else? I did do a little scalp from 550, so that was interesting. Now, we're away from 550, so it would require a bigger stop loss. So a couple of things that I want to do, it's either that we test VWAP, which is currently sitting at 543.30 roughly, or maybe that we retest at least for 548. So somewhere around this, what I like to call conterminous line. But at the moment it's a bit of a range, so we want to be careful of that. I also have lovely bookmap on my other screen. So, so far, Delta is shaving off, but I'm not seeing big sort of volume stepping in just yet. That may change. But this kind of slow bleed is not really what I'm looking for into COMEX element. Raphael, yeah, it's 28th of March when we change, right? So it's going to be Sunday, 28th of March. Then we go back to normality. And then maybe I can go back to some funded accounts and maybe trading a little bit more in my own. But yeah, March is always very strange. Ides of March, that's what they say. So yeah, a couple of ideas. So like I said, bounce from VWAP, obviously a much smaller trade, or return to 548. So yeah. And because we are still talking about prop firms and how to approach prop firm trading, even though I'm trying to move my channel away from that a little bit and towards like platform reviews, because I just can't with the prop firm drama. It was enough. It's gone too like kind of tabloid for my liking. So most channels seem to get views if they're talking about, oh, who was fighting, and I couldn't care less, honestly. Just, we just want to trade. There's a service that they provide. Why do we have to drag all this personal stuff into it? But that's what gets views, right? Conflict and all of that nonsense. Is there anything else that we can have a look at? Gold is just snooze fest in this COMEX session. I mean, look at that. Big range, decent range. Or almost 1,500 ticks, so 1,468 to be exact. But yeah, what a mess. Not really interested in that. Eloise is here, says hi, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Fire Christ. Hello. Ikadoli? Am I butchering your name? Sorry if I am. Kathy, the stock gal. Always love seeing women. What type of indicators do I have at the bottom? So this one is a Fisher transform. And then I have ATR. So nothing too unusual. I suppose Fisher transform is a little bit unusual. But if you look at this panel over here, that is a part of Blahtech GL. It just provides information of the size of the averages and stuff. Now, when you have a day like this, the averages are not going to help you. So that is not that relevant today, post FOMC. So one day before FOMC, FOMC day, and the day after, you have outlier days typically. So that's why we're seeing a lot of liveliness and a lot of moves that are not normal, hence the outlier days. But yeah, they're just, so what do we have here? We have Tokyo range, London range, New York range over the last 10 days. Current session, 425 ticks. And current overall movement for the day, which is 516 ticks. What's the spread? Some percentages, some averages, 1 day, 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, and then we create a weighted average based on all of that. So yeah, and then obviously I have some random volume here, which shouldn't really be there. For the volumes, I actually quite like the Top Specs volumes. I think they're pretty clean. So I usually use that. And obviously I've got bookmap, but bookmap is more granular. So you're looking at things that are quite lively. Yes, so far we're not doing anything. We're not chasing. It's in the middle of the middle. We're going to see if we can swipe or trade. If we can't, we can't. You know the deal. We're not going to chase. Now I can only be here for an hour, so until 2 p.m. Eastern, and then I have to go. So it's not going to be my standard sort of 90 minutes to 2 hour stream. If you got any questions, shoot, because that's what we're here for. Yeah, so there, if you look at what bookmap is doing, there's some buyers here. Delta's being responsive to that, so that is aggressive buyers. Aggressive, very aggressive. GSK says moo. Moo. Yeah. So the hat is because I like to hold my trades until the cows come home. It's a joke that I've been peddling for a while. I figured I might as well get the hat. Might as well get the hat. And the reason why this is quite funny, is because of this. So my average win duration 48 minutes, average trade duration 99 minutes. Held one loss. This was an overnight hold. I didn't even do anything. But yeah, apparently Coach T says that my most traded symbol is MHG. Consider learning additional symbols to help diversify trading. Dude, I trade silver and I trade also trade crude oil. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, man? But yeah, I trade copper a lot. Thank you. What else do you know? Did I get back in HG trade? So I caught a piece of the drop, right? And if I was, I said it, we probably joined a little bit later. If I was in a funded account, I never would have done that. But I was looking at bookmap and I was like, damn, this is going to break, man. This is going to break. So once it knocked me out, I figured, you know what, let me just jump in with like 4 and see what we can happen, what can happen. Because I had this 530 level more like an overall target for the next few days, but I also knew that we had no relevant levels in between. There were some levels that, you know, were their end of day, but even those were very weak kind of GEX levels that really didn't look strong enough to stop the drop. I mentioned 530, right, on my stream this morning. So I said 550 was yesterday. Don't see it as a super relevant level apart from it being a gamma flip. But I also said if we lose 550 and we are not able to get up there, because we were sitting under it all morning, then there's nothing until 530. I didn't anticipate that it's going to go to 530 and then bounce exactly from there. Even I got surprised by that, and I was like, whoa, okay, Jesus. That was one hell of a move. And now we're back to 550. So, you know, these are the levels that I had this morning, really. I didn't redo the levels, so they're still there. But, you know, when we're on Top Step, we have to make sure that we're using Project X or Top Step X, however you want to call it. Alright, so they're bouncing it up a little bit. Let's see if they can bounce it up to 48. I mean, they're certainly trying. It would be kind of the most ideal thing if they actually retouch 550, but then we get into territory, how many times has it been touched already? Like, how many times until it's no longer relevant? Usually 3, right? So here's one touch, here's the second one. Are we doing cattle futures? We're not, we're just holding trades until the cows come home. I know everybody's now saying, "Dee, you have to trade cattle now." And I might get Coach Hoop and drag him to guide me. I know the cattle follows levels pretty nicely. I've traded it a little bit, right? But it's not like, oh yeah, I know nothing about cattle. I've got cows in the neighboring farm. That's as close as I'm getting to it. So, you know, with cattle, there are certain macro things that you have to stay aware of. And I don't know that. So I need somebody who does, which is Coach Hoop. And he's a buddy of mine, so. What platform is that? The platform that you see my charts on, I'm very old school, right? It's MetaTrader 5 via AMP futures. So it's actual futures contracts. CQG is the data feed. But, you know, we started back in the day. All right, we're getting to 48 now. We started the company that I own back in 2015, 2016, something like that. And back then in Europe, MetaTrader 4 was actually pretty popular. And when MetaTrader 5 came out, I welcomed it because it was real futures via AMP and some buyer exhaustion here. So yeah, I decided we're going to bring professional trading tools for the retail community, and that's how Blahtech started. All right, I am in 4 little micros from about 47.70. So we'll see. And the thing with micros, they are sometimes a little bit late than the real contract. And I'm looking at the full contract because I don't care what the micro dome is doing. But this is maybe front running in a little bit because we've already had that reversal. And we're coming into the last 10 minutes. So if they're going to do something, they should do it pretty quickly, although sometimes they're late. Sometimes they wait for the close and then they start running it back down. But only 4 micros, very sensible. We're trying to keep the majority of this P&L without giving back too much. Just a combine, I'm way too tired. And March is way too weird. So we're gonna remove risk and trade accounts. So we're drilling, we're practicing, keeping our trading chops fresh. Maybe doing a couple of punts here and there because it is a combine. But largely sticking to the same concepts. So yeah, but this is NinjaTrader 5 AM futures. It's Blahtech indicators, obviously, buy indicators. One of those is not available, so this options thing, that's something that I don't think is ready for release. Because I didn't we didn't code that as a team. It was just me. I wanted, you know, options levels that have like weights to them. So therefore, I have a calculation, and it's a bit messy. So definitely not release ready. Right. Let me just put a marker on here, and this is something I do all the time to not focus on the P&L, but rather focusing on the feel of how the trade is progressing. Now, is 55 ticks enough? Honestly, I would want it a bit wider, so might actually give it a bit more room, because I don't think this is enough. So let me just measure that quickly, because I'm in only with 4, and we have some space here. So let's see. So it's moving a lot today, so we need to account for that. So what would, so if I do 75 ticks, what's the risk on that? Let me double check. I mean, that's pretty acceptable. So, all right, so I've modified my risk to be at 5150. It is a kind of a round number, but we're going above the 550. So if they whip it back up there, might still not be enough, but it will only be $380 loss. So let me just adjust that. Typically I try to stay away from round numbers. So that's what that looks like. Yeah, a lot more room. Don't like this color. I somehow don't like the color. So let me pick another one. There we go. Purple, pink. Nah, that looks stupid. Let me do light blue or something. That's better. This is a lot better. Yeah. Right. So let's see if they can do yet another sell-off here. Don't have super high hopes, but yeah, it's the, you know, the probabilities of this time of day. Hedging, enforced hedging into settlement. But at the same time, it's an outlier day, right? So probabilities may not play out the way they normally do. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be scaling in here, because I don't think I have enough time for that. Again, I have to be out of here pretty soon. Whoops, did not mean to move that. Just wanted it away from the timer, because I want to see the timer. Right, let's go back to bookmap. Delta falling off a little bit. Some selling, but it's not really impacting the price just yet. So let's wait. I said little, yes. There's a T It's not little or little. Seems like the whole world, especially like in a lot of English dialects, a lot of people forget to pronounce their T's, and I'm kind of guilty of it sometimes. If I'm, if I've had a couple of drinks, and I do go a little bit more street, right? But most of the time, I try to pronounce my T's. And 5150 is police code for acting crazy. Vincenzo C. Coming at us with some knowledge there. I did not know that. 5150, crazy cow. Probably me, right? Because whoever's doing this job, I can tell you, they are not normal. Who wants to be normal? Anyway. Yeah, glottal stop. I know, yeah, glottal stop. Right, they're gonna whip it up to 550, aren't they? See, now back in the old days, I used to scale in again, because it's a zone, right? So I used to scale in a drawdown, assuming that it doesn't go like really super close to my stop. So I used to, and I kind of still do that on my own account, but on prop that just doesn't work, because if the trade doesn't do what it's supposed to do, you're then left with a bigger loss than you should have. And because we're working with such like tight risk limits on prop, and now they're putting even more shackles on us, that approach is just not, it just doesn't cut it, I suppose. So I'm still working on getting comfortable only scaling in when the market starts moving my way. And if it doesn't, then I eat up the core position whenever I can. And call it a day. Move on to the next trade idea. Maybe get, a little bit of a break, half an hour, do something else. There's a nice little drop there. So if you're wondering what I'm staring at, I'm just staring at bookmap and order flow to see whether these serious sellers are going to start unwinding. The data of MetaTraders on futures and CFDs are the same or not? No, it is not. So the futures data, for example, this one CPEK26, that's coming straight from the exchange, from the CME. It is an actual futures contract. But if you're using a CFD brokerage, no volumes are available. Their order book is only their clients. It's not the actual institutions. It's just the other retail traders who most of the time don't know what they're doing. So I would really be very suspicious of that. There is no real order flow on CFDs. CFDs are only partially regulated. The huge reason why I stay away from them is because the partially regulated products are a lot more prone to manipulation by brokerages, by prop firms that are in Forex. And we've seen that with my Forex funds. They're trying to come back. They've been, whether they've been fined or whatever, but they did some really dodgy stuff with like spreads that are set by them, not by the actual exchange, because there is no exchange for CFDs. But yeah, futures markets are heavily regulated. Whichever data feed you get, everybody gets their data from the CME. So it's all one thing. So it doesn't matter whether I'm with AMP or whether I go with plus 500 or whether I go with any other brokerage. It's all going to come from the CME exchange. So the dome that you see on top step, that's coming from the exchange. So it's the data feed coming from the exchange, but it's in a simulated environment for your order fills, right? So they're trying to make it as realistic as possible. The only difference is your orders in sim never hit the market, which can change the execution quite a bit. So that's the only, real difference. But the data, the dome, you look at anything, you look at Rhythmic feed, you look at Ninja feed, you look at Iron Beam, you look at everybody, they will all have the same orders on the dome and the same transactions going through. Another thing why I stay away from CFDs is because if you're serious about your trading and you want to put some real capital behind it, Even if you have, let's say, you put in 600,000 in your account, in a CFD account, they will accept your money. They will be like, yes, come. But the problem is, if anything happens to that particular CFD broker, they go into administration and they can only guarantee up to $50,000 or pounds in for your account. So whether they would maybe out of their own goodwill decide to return the rest of it to you, they are legally not obliged to do so. And to me, that's a big problem, right? So if you're somebody who's putting, a large chunk of your disposable capital into trading, you want to make sure that all of it is protected. Now, in futures, if one brokerage goes under, it is your account and everything, it is automatically transferred to another brokerage, and you probably wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't notice it. So that's a huge difference. Why? Because everybody's working under the same umbrella, right? Like huge differences in regulation. I just don't trust CFDs. User, EM4W, whatever. I'm not going to read the rest of that. Hello everyone, what days do you do these streams? I do them on Thursdays, typically at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you're not in the US and you're over in Europe or the UK or elsewhere, maybe somewhere in Asia, the GMT side of things is going to change. So for example, right now it's 5 p.m. But when we change our clocks, that's going to be back to 6 p.m. GMT, but at that point it's going to be BST, British Standard Time. But yeah, so 1 p.m. Eastern is what I kind of go by. And it's a good time because it's COMEX settlement. You have pretty high probabilities of that enforced hedging into the end of the day. And it's one of my favorite times of day to trade. It is not the open. Data CFD comes from the spot market. Yes, but the spot market is also not centralized. So the spot market involves transactions that are done at airports, that are done in hotels, resorts, cruises. So how is that centralized? So all of that volume that is done elsewhere is not going to be on your screen, and yet at some point it will probably impact the price quite a bit, especially if it's a large enough transaction. So again, that's another thing I'm not in favor of. And the commodities markets that I trade copper, I trade crude oil, they are heavily regulated, and they're there for either users or the producers of the commodity to do their own hedging and to protect the prices for their cash forward sales, right? You don't really have too many similar things. I suppose you can call forwards in the currencies a similar thing, but having a forwards trade is not something that a retail trader would do. They would do so to benefit from potential interest rates over the next 3 months and stuff. And then usually those are OTC contracts, so they're not standardized contracts. They're contracts done with another party where you and the other party will define the terms of that particular contract. But with futures, it's all standardized. Everybody knows what they're getting, and it's so much easier. There's no issues with liquidity. There are dedicated market makers that will ensure the tight spreads are there. Only in terms of like velocity logic or something weird happening in the market, they might put the brakes on the market making. They will still do it, but it's going to be a lot less on that particular day. But those kind of events are generally few and far between. Nadir says, like A book and B book, please explain it for me. Yeah, so A book and B book was a big issue back in the day with the CFDs and MT4. So what happened, you will be A book, meaning your trades never go to the exchange, and usually it will be only pitted against the clients of the actual exchange. So your orders would depend on whether another client of the same brokerage has an opposing position. Usually there was enough of them, so not too much of a problem. But at the same time, the spreads were much bigger, right? So something that's a little bit more exotic, but even on commodity CFDs, you know, you would get crude oil with like a 7-tick spread, and futures don't have that. So if I go on crude oil, actually let's show you this because we are on a combine. So here's MCL. I'm only going to do one to illustrate. In CFDs, if I were to enter, let's say, a long on micro crude, you would need plus 7 ticks in order to get to the real profit. So immediately any sort of kind of scalping would be extremely expensive. But in futures, I entered. What's my spread? 1 tick, maybe, right? Just 1 tick. Why? Because you have market makers, so they ensure that there's enough liquidity and there's a counterparty to almost every trade, and there's no spreads. So they keep the bid and ask spread super tight in futures. So you either get like maybe a couple of ticks of spread, but most of the time you'll get none. So the only thing you're paying for is really the round trip commission charge, effectively. So yeah, there are, you know, significant differences there. Anyways, that's not a real trade. That's just me illustrating things. Let me move this way. Right. We've had the COMEX closed and not really doing anything. They're just very quiet. So then this might be the one where they're late, or they just do like heavy drift, slow drift upwards. That's definitely a possibility today because it's a weird day. It's post FOMC, everything went nuts, or most things went nuts. And this could be a hangover range. And in that regard, you would then, if you want to keep trading, you would really then be looking at the edges of this range that it's established. So, so none of this like bigger movement, but instead, just trying to go from above 550. So let's say wherever this little high is. What is that? That's 51.10. So you'll be waiting for a little sweep, and that will be your mini short, and then just taking smaller trades down to the middle. I don't like doing that because I am not really a range trader. Like I've gotten better over the years. But it's not, it's not my favorite way to trade at all. So if I can, I will avoid that and look for a bigger chunk, even if I have to wait for longer. And this could be one of those trades. I don't think I'm going to keep this as long, but if I was in a funded account, I would absolutely keep this until pretty much the end of the day. So for as long as the prop firm allows me to stay in, I would stay in. And eventually, you will see copper still moves, but it's much slower after settlement. However, you would see a slow kind of descent against whatever context we have. So the context here is that we went up for most of the session. So contextually, the hedging should happen to the opposing side the nearer we get to the actual electronic close of the day. Yeah, but A book and B book, let's get back to that. So A book would be just pitted against the clients and your orders never go to the exchange. Now, if you happen to become profitable in the CFD space, what's going to happen is that at some point it is not in their favor to keep you in the A book. So therefore you will get pushed to B book, where your trades do go to the exchange, and then technically they should be hedging the overall exposure of the brokerage in the actual market, in the spot market. Now, the problem with FXCM and Alpari and a whole bunch of people that went bust in January 2015 when the SNB, Swiss National Bank, randomly removed the pegged floor that they've had in place for years. They completely went bust. Why? Because they went complacent and they didn't have the net hedge in the actual market. So unfortunately, they had to be bought out. That wasn't cool, but it did tell you how confident they were that everybody's always losing. So they don't need to do much risk management. It's terrible. It really exposed how badly behaved CFD brokerages can be. Not all of them, obviously. Tendra says, hi D, I heard you talked about COMEX close reversal. Yeah, it's my favorite trade. Can you re-explain it again? Yeah, so the reason why COMEX close right after happens is because as the day nears, or as the settlement nears, that is effectively the time of day when officially things settle. But back in the day it was actually the pit closing time, so you couldn't open or close trades after that. Everybody would just go home, that would be it, and then there would be a gap the next day, and that's what was known as the regular trading hours. Now, over the years, they decided to start running all of the markets overnight, and that kind of changed things, but you still have this old school settlement thing that always goes by the old pit hours. So after you see the clock strikes 1 p.m. Eastern, typically you should start to see some sort of a reversal. Now, like I said prior to, I don't know when you joined the stream, but I mentioned this before, we are in a bit of an outlier day today, quite a bit of an outlier. It's post FOMC. The probabilities for that don't always play out, but if it's any other day, then you have a super high probability of some sort of a fade into that settlement. What I like to do, I like to be at relevant levels of some sort. Now, it's not going to be an accident that they dragged it back all the way to 550 and now they're settling there, right? That's a level that, while it's a smaller put level, it is also a level with, I think it had higher implied volatility at that strike. And those are the anchors that I look for when I'm looking at like bigger reversal points, and that's where I aim to try and run my trades, like sort of a zone around those areas. This one happened way too quick. They just touched it and started turning around, and I was like, yeah, I had it in mind, but then I don't really like trading during the initial balance anyway. So by the time that I came back, they already kind of massively ran it back the other way, and I was like, okay, and they just kept pushing. But now we're back at 550. That's also a gamma flip level, so it's a level where we are kind of still negative gamma, but if it goes higher, you would expect like a mean reverting behavior. Now, is that going to happen today? We're kind of running out of time for that, frankly. If it was earlier in the day and you cross over the gamma flip, it becomes more controlled, the price action. So the negative versus positive gamma tells you the behavior of the price action, sort of like how fast the price is moving, kind of like a car, right? And so I usually like to find a relevant options level and or an exhaustion point. Today that's not relevant because it's an outlier day, so the only thing I have here is time of day and the 550 gamma flip. So that's what that is. I'm looking for some sort of a fade into the end of the day. Sometimes, like I said, they started later, and now they're starting it, as you can see, they still haven't started, right? So this is going to be one of those slow movers. I'm only going to be here for another 15 minutes because I do have to get to a call. So it's going to be a shorter stream than usual. But whenever I'm in on these sorts of trades, I don't babysit them. I just make sure that the stop loss is reasonable enough to encompass even like some sort of a retest of the relevant level if I'm away from it, and I just leave it. Don't really look at it. So I'm not somebody who watches my trades intently after I'm in anyway. Primarily because I'm planning to be in them for much, much longer periods of time. But yeah, so this could be a slow grind over the next 2-3 hours. ECM broker, yeah, that's a new thing, but you have to explicitly request it. It's not like they're going to put you, if it's an ECM broker, it's a little bit better. And that all came after the SMB fiasco in January 2015. So, yeah. Before then, ECN was not even a thing. Everybody was just like doing whatever they want to do. Am I still trading DAX every day? I never really traded DAX every day. I traded most days, but sometimes it's sometimes I have like 2 weeks without actually trading it at all. So I trade it when it looks good, right? If it looks sketchy, I won't trade DAX. Now I trade multiple products, so I will scan through most of them to see what's looking okay, what's sensible, what's gone too crazy, what's gone too quiet, and then I make my decision of where I'm going to get involved. Recently, there's been a lot of copper trading, I will tell you that. But DAX, I think I've probably done about 3 or 4 trades this week, but that was across 2 days. Last week, I don't know whether I did 1 on DAX. So yeah, I still look at it every day, but I'm not going to trade it every day. Yeah, TD365, Jim Z says, thanks for the information. Good to know about CFDs. I use the same as Tom Hugard, who got bought up by Trade Nation. I like them. Yeah, they're pretty good. JKX. D, being around the 99th percentile of intelligence, do you find it difficult in relating to others? It's a good question. To a degree. Like, I'm somebody who's pretty good in social situations because I was a musician and we went through like a lot of interviews and stuff, and that's weird. Like, at the best of times, interview situations are weird. Like, you don't know anything about them, they don't know much about you apart from the piece of paper that they might have received just like a little bit prior. And then you sit there and answer questions and try to look as natural as possible. So, that's far more awkward than, talking to a stranger in a social environment. But I do find that I don't relate to many people. When people ask me, what do you do? I usually say, I'm in banking. But then people want to know more. Well, what do you do in banking? And these days I just say, it's data science. Now, if they work for like an institution or, something, then we have a common ground and then we can start talking and then I become my nerdy self. Do I relate to girls who will only talk to me about hair and makeup? Absolutely not. I struggle with that, right? So if somebody is always talking complete kind of, empty conversations, I'm very... I don't know what to say, right? I'm just like, I have nothing to add. And they'll be like, but you do makeup. Yes, I do makeup, but I do it in like 5 minutes and then it's done, right? I'm not going to be talking about, this makeup and this brush and this. It's like, this is why I will never run a beauty channel, ever. So I do find it difficult to relate to people who don't have businesses of their own, because again, I have many of my own businesses. I've always been an entrepreneur of some sort. Even as a musician, you run your own business. Not terribly well, because you're kind of banking on talent to get you there. And then you get a manager and an agent and whatever, so they do a lot of the work for you. But it is a business, it's a business where you don't have... consistent income. So, sometimes you will be like off on a TV show and you're working on a TV show for 2 months and then you get paid, a handsome chunk of cash at the end of it, but then you don't know where the rest of it is coming from. So you'll be like, now what? But luckily, if you're a well-known entity in those circles, then it's okay. And so when I talk to people who don't have businesses, they usually go, oh, you've got businesses, oh my God, I've always wanted to run my own business. And I go, well, what's stopping you? Oh, you know, this and that and that. And then they give me like a laundry list of reasons why they have regrets. And then inevitably, they also start to pour their soul out. And I'm like, I'm not a therapist, man. I'm not good with emotional stuff, I'll be honest, okay? Somebody cries in front of me, and I don't know what to do. I'm just like, there. Like, what do you do in that situation? I'm not a huggy type of person, especially if I don't know someone very well. It's like, I find that ultra weird. So yeah, in certain situations, I'm a little bit awkward, but most of the time, my humor bails me out, so I'm pretty good at that. And if all else fails, I ask them a question, and then they just talk. That's a trick that I've learned. Just ask them a question about their life and stuff, and then just sit back and listen. It's the best way to deal with awkwardness. All right, so gold is pushing here. We're going back to 550, so maybe I should have waited for 550, but it is what it is. See, sometimes if I find that I want to rearrange stuff, I would kill the existing trade, and then I would re-enter. So that is something that I've done in the past. But I'm not going to do that today because I'm tired, can't be bothered, frankly. But yeah, 550 test incoming. And this is a combine, so maybe we can do it the old style where we enter another trade and average. But this is not going to change the average much because I'm in with 4. And if I enter 1, how much change is that going to be? Mark Hoffman says, on a 4-day losing streak, but only down 340 for the month. That's fine. I mean, dude, I've had like 2-3 months of losing. Like, never mind. It's like, oh, 4 days. Just look at it from a bigger picture, right? 1 day, 1 week, 1 trade, it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. But when you put it in perspective of, you know, okay, well, what did I do for the last 3 months? How are my numbers looking? And if that's all still either scratch or positive, mildly, you're still fine. Now, if you start to bleed money, then, you know, you probably should step back and see what the reason for that is. It could be anything besides stop losses in this volatility. Like, for example, I would argue that this stop loss that I'm using now, seeing how I'm more of an intraday swing trader, that would be a little bit too tight because of the amount of movement. You know, ATR, what is it now? Let's have a look. Yeah, so really the stop should be about 85, so it's like 40 points, and then I like to have a little bit more room, and that will mean shaving off the size. Like if I was starting a new 50k or something, maybe not a 50k because I'm pretty aggressive on the evals on 50k, but let's say it's a new 50k XFA, I would probably just plop in like 2 micros and then widen the stop to 85 ticks, and then just try and see whether I can get as good an entry as I possibly can. I mean, we could, for educational purposes, look at bookmap to see whether that 50 level is going to do something, but I'm only going to be here for another 4 minutes because I do have to do something else. So we're not going to have like time to wait for 50 to give us another reversal and yet another reversal. So alright, let's have a look at chat. Eloisa says, me too. Someone cries that I'm out of there. Yeah. Tendra says, have you tried the MBTI test? I did. I think I came as like ENTJ something, whatever. I'm not really in favor of all of those, but I came out as a pretty kind of driven person who effectively doesn't take note of other people's opinions and stuff. But I think that's like ENTJ something. Isn't there like a subsection? It's been a while though. It's been probably about 8-9 years since I've done that. What prop are you trading on the screen right now? This is not prop. This is actually my live account where the charts are. It's my YOLO account, as I like to call it. I do have it connected into Ninja as well, but at the moment I'm just using it like that. Now, the prop that I am illustrating the trade on, because I'm not trading my live account, I am trading just an eval because I'm really tired, and I've been trying to rack up a few more sort of funded accounts while the weirdness of March runs away. This is Top Step. So this one is Top Step, this is Top Step X, but I only use Top Step more as an execution platform. I do not use it as, you know, full-on charting. Well, every time I change a prop firm or, you know, do a new eval, I don't port all of my charting into a new thing. I never do that. So I always stick to the same thing, and I don't trade large positions either. So the P&L you're seeing there, I never went over like 1 CL, and most of it was between 4 and 7 micros on copper. And there was one RBOB that I did 2, so one contract RBOB, I did 2 trades. That went very well because it went for like 140 ticks once, then they kind of sold it off, then I entered again. It was pure momentum trading of RBOB, and that's where the majority of that comes from. And then on the stream for the metal markets on Top Step, I did one tiny crude oil trade just on like 2 micros, I think it was. Then I lost the copper trade on like 6 micro coppers. But yeah, it's all like very small size. You know, I'm trying to illustrate here that you don't have to trade with crazy size, especially not in this volatility, to still be able to generate some pretty serious returns. Once you get to the funded level, funded account, I do size down a lot because I want to keep the account. I don't want to lose it in 3.5 seconds. So there is a difference, you know, and now that all the prop firms are putting shackles on us, you know, everybody's changing to stop the sim YOLOers and gamblers and stuff from doing what they've been doing, basically exploiting the game and saying that their, you know, risk is only what they paid for the evaluation, and then they go and run up like 300K's worth of evaluations, get like $1 million payout and say, oh yeah, you see, everybody can do it. It's like, yeah, if you've got 300 grand to piss up a tree, excuse me. So it's like, nobody's going to do that. That is not a realistic representation of what prop is for. Prop is there to help you scale sensibly and to test your skills in an environment that's, you know, reasonably under pressure. So yeah. But you don't have to trade a lot of size. Like, you know, you have something that moves 1,000 ticks a day, 500 ticks a day. You know, a few micros is all you need. 2, 3, 4 micros. So, yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to have to run because I do have to get to a meeting. Only a short one. This is now rejecting 550 yet again. So I will keep this for however long it takes. In the meantime, stay safe. We've got Friday tomorrow. Don't mess up your Fridays, so don't fuck it up Fridays, is what I always say on this stream. Can't say it on Top Step because we're trying not to swear. But yeah, so Friday, there's a reason why you should just kind of chill out, even if you're a drawdown or even if especially if you've made money. Fridays are not the time to be going, oh yeah, let me just get to the payout. Don't do that, okay? So that's all for me for now. So keep an eye out on this 550 level. Have a look at it, you know, after about an hour or so, and I will see you again. Well, you're going to see me tomorrow on Top Step TV for group coaching, and then after that for my metal market show. But if you're coming here again, I will see you again next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's all I have for you. Thank you for joining me for the Market Stalker stream. I will see you very soon. Let's try to be less grasshopper and more Market Stalker with every passing day. Take care.